I don't know what you've been through. I can feel it, that quiet confusion in your heart. Kind that makes you question your own worth. Kind that keeps you awake at night, replaying moments, wondering, was it real, or was it just me? My love. Love was never meant to feel like a puzzle you have to solve. It was never meant to leave you guessing, doubting, overthinking every word, every silence. Love, real love, this doesn't confuse you. It doesn't make you feel like you're too much one day and not enough the next. And if you've been holding on to something that makes your heart feel heavy instead of safe, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to hear this. You deserve a love that is clear, a love that chooses you, without hesitation, without games, without fear, because love should feel like peace, not a question mark. There's something I need to tell you, something I wish someone had told you earlier. Before the sleepless nights, before the silent tears, before you started questioning parts of yourself that were never broken to begin with, you've been trying so hard to understand a love that keeps slipping through your fingers. Haven't you? You replay conversations in your head, searching for meaning between words that were never clear. You hold on to moments, small ones, because they felt real, because in those moments, you felt chosen, even if the rest of the time, you felt invisible, and somehow, you convinced yourself that love is supposed to feel this way. But it's not. Love was never meant to confuse you. It was never meant to make you feel like you're walking on unstable ground, where one step feels safe, and the next makes everything fall apart. It was never meant to make you question your value, your beauty, your place in someone's life. You see, when love is real, you don't have to decode it. You don't have to sit there wondering why the energy changed, why the warmth turned cold, why the words stopped matching the actions. Real love doesn't make you feel like you're chasing something that keeps running away from you. And I know, you've been chasing, not because you're weak, but because you care deeply. Because when you love, you give your whole heart. You don't play games, you don't hold back, you don't measure affection like it's something to be rationed. You give, and you give, and you give. And somewhere along the way, you started accepting less. Just to keep what little you had. You told yourself, maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe if I love them a little harder, they'll finally see me. But love isn't something you have to earn by exhausting yourself. It's not something that appears only when it's convenient for the other person. It's not something that disappears when you need it the most. Real love doesn't leave you feeling uncertain about where you stand. It doesn't make you question whether you are important or just an option. It doesn't make you feel like you have to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's life. And yet, you stayed. You stayed through the mixed signals, through the inconsistency, through the silence that spoke louder than words. You stayed because you believed in the version of them that showed just enough to keep you holding on, that version that made you smile, that made your heart race, that made you believe this could be something real. But love isn't built on could be. Love is built on what is, and what is should feel steady. It should feel safe. It should feel like coming home, not like standing outside a door, hoping someone will finally let you in. You deserve a love that doesn't leave you guessing. A love that doesn't disappear when things get hard. A love that doesn't make you feel like you are asking for too much, when all you're asking for is honesty, consistency, and presence. Because those things, they're not too much. They're the bare minimum. But you've been made to feel like they're luxuries. You've been made to feel like wanting clarity is needy. Like wanting reassurance is weakness. Like wanting stability is asking for the impossible. It's not. What's impossible is trying to build something real with someone who only shows up halfway. What's exhausting is someone who makes you feel unsure of everything. And what's heartbreaking is watching yourself lose pieces of who you are, just to hold on to someone who was never fully there. You've changed, haven't you? You've become quieter, more careful, more hesitant to express what you feel. You've started overthinking everything, your words, your reactions, your expectations, because you're afraid of pushing them away. But love shouldn't make you feel like you have to walk on eggshells. it shouldn't make you feel like being yourself is a risk. The right kind of love. It makes you feel free, free to speak, free to feel, free to exist without fear of losing the person, just because you showed your truth. And I know, a part of you still hopes they'll change. A part of you still believes that one day, they'll wake up and realize what they have, that they'll finally love you the way you've been loving them all along. But love isn't about waiting for someone to become who you need. It's about choosing someone who already meets you where you are. You shouldn't have to beg for consistency. You shouldn't have to fight for attention. You shouldn't have to wonder if you matter, because when you matter to someone, you feel it, not just in their words, but in their actions, their effort, their presence. You feel it in the way they make time for you. In the way they choose you even when it's not convenient. In the way they show up, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. That's what love looks like. Not confusion, not uncertainty, not emotional distance disguised as independence. And maybe the hardest truth to accept is that sometimes, the love you're holding on to isn't real love. It's attachment, it's hope, it's the idea of what things could be, not what they actually are. And letting go of that, it hurts. Because you're not just letting go of a person. You're letting go of the dreams you built around them, the future you imagined, the moments you thought you'd share, the version of them you fell in love with. But holding on to confusion hurts more. Staying in something that makes you question your worth hurts more. Losing yourself, slowly, quietly, just to keep someone in your life, hurts more than walking away ever will. You deserve clarity, you deserve peace, you deserve a love that feels like certainty, not doubt. A love where you don't have to ask, do they really care about me? Because you already know. A love where you don't feel anxious when your phone is silent. Where you don't feel relief when they finally respond. Where your happiness isn't dependent on their inconsistency. You deserve a love that doesn't play with your emotions. A love that doesn't come and go. A love that stays. Because the truth is, the right person won't confuse you. They won't make you feel like you're hard to love. They won't make you question your place in their life. They'll make it clear. Clear in the way they look at you. Clear in the way they speak to you. Clear in the way they choose you. Every single day. And I know it's hard to let go of something that once made you feel alive. But you have to ask yourself, is it still making you feel that way? Or is it just draining you now? Is it bringing you peace? Or is it stealing it? Because love should never cost you your peace. It should never leave you feeling empty. It should never make you doubt yourself. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for the impossible. You're simply asking for a love that is real. And real love doesn't confuse you. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. It stands with you. Firm, steady, certain, and maybe, just maybe, the reason you haven't found that kind of love yet is because you've been holding on to something that was never meant to give it to you. Because sometimes, we hold on to the wrong love, thinking it's the only love we'll ever have, but it's not. There is a love out there that will feel different, calm, not chaotic, certain, not confusing, safe, not unpredictable. But to find it, you have to let go of what's been breaking you. You have to choose yourself. Even when it hurts, you have to walk away. Even when a part of you wants to stay, because staying in confusion will never lead you to clarity. And you deserve clarity. You deserve to wake up without that heaviness in your chest. You deserve to feel secure, valued, seen. You deserve a love that doesn't make you question everything. A love that doesn't leave you lost in your own thoughts. A love that feels like truth, not illusion. And the moment you start believing that, truly believing that, everything begins to change. You stop settling. You stop chasing. You stop accepting less than what your heart truly needs. And that's when the right kind of love finds you. Not the kind that confuses you, but the kind that finally feels like home. There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you start to realize that what you've been calling love has been costing you more than it's giving you. Not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but slowly, piece by piece, you begin to feel it, in the way your smile doesn't reach your eyes anymore. In the way your heart feels heavy even when nothing is happening. In the way you hesitate before expressing your feelings. Because you're not sure how they'll be received, and that's the moment where something inside you begins to shift, because deep down, you know. You know that love isn't supposed to feel like this. You know that constantly overthinking, constantly waiting, constantly doubting, isn't what your heart was made for. But still, you stay, not because you don't see the truth, because walking away feels harder than holding on, because you've invested time, emotions, dreams, because you've built a version of the future in your mind. And letting go of that feels like losing something real, and maybe a part of you is still hoping that if you just hold on a little longer, if you just love a little harder, if you just become a little more patient, things will finally change. But here's the truth, the kind that doesn't come easy. Love is not supposed to be a test of how much you can tolerate. It's not meant to measure how long you can endure confusion before breaking. It's not about proving your worth by staying in something that continuously makes you question it. Real love doesn't ask you to sacrifice your peace, and yet, you've been doing exactly that. You've been choosing them over yourself, choosing their inconsistency over your stability, their silence over your need for communication, their half-hearted presence over your desire for something real. And maybe you didn't even notice when it started. Maybe at first, it felt like compromise, but somewhere along the way, it stopped being compromise and started becoming self-abandonment. You began ignoring your own needs, dismissing your own feelings, convincing yourself that what you wanted was too much. But it wasn't. It never was. You just got used to receiving less, and the more you accepted less, the more you started believing that less is all you deserve. That's how emotional chaos works. It doesn't just confuse your heart. It slowly rewires your sense of worth. It makes you think that love is supposed to feel uncertain, that being anxious is normal, that constantly questioning things is just part of caring deeply. But it's not. It's a sign that something isn't right. Because when you're with the right person, you don't feel like you're losing yourself. You don't feel like you have to shrink, or stay silent, or adjust your entire existence just to keep them close. You feel steady, grounded, safe in a way that doesn't require constant reassurance, because their actions already provide it. But what you've been experiencing, it's the opposite of that. It's a cycle, a pattern of highs and lows, of closeness and distance, of feeling everything, and then feeling nothing. And that kind of love, if we can even call it that, it's addictive, because every time they come back, every time they show you a glimpse of who they could be, it gives you hope, and hope can be dangerous when it's attached to the wrong person, because it keeps you holding on. Even when everything else is telling you to let go. But there's something stronger than hope, something quieter, but more powerful, self-respect. And self-respect doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it doesn't try to convince someone to stay. It simply chooses what aligns, and walks away from what doesn't, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because choosing yourself isn't easy. It means facing the reality you've been avoiding. It means accepting that the person you wanted isn't the person you have. It means letting go of potential and finally seeing the truth for what it is. And the truth can feel heavy, but it's also freeing, because the moment you stop chasing someone who confuses you, you create space for something that doesn't. The moment you stop settling for emotional chaos, you open the door to emotional peace. But that door, it doesn't open on its own. You have to make the decision. You have to say, I deserve better than this. Not in anger, not in bitterness, in quiet understanding, in the kind of understanding that comes from knowing your worth, even after it's been overlooked. And that's where everything begins to change. Because when you truly choose yourself, you stop accepting breadcrumbs, you stop making excuses for behavior that hurts you. You stop lowering your standards just to keep someone in your life. And most importantly, you stop confusing emotional intensity with real love, because real love, it's not chaotic. It doesn't pull you in one moment and push you away the next. It doesn't leave you feeling drained, or anxious, or unsure. It brings you peace. A kind of peace that doesn't need to be questioned. A kind of peace that doesn't disappear overnight. But you can't experience that kind of love if you're still holding on to something that takes more than it gives. And I know, letting go feels like losing. It feels like you're giving up on something that mattered, like you're walking away from something that could have been beautiful. But sometimes, walking away isn't losing. Sometimes, it's the first real step toward finding something real, because staying in something that hurts you isn't loyalty, it's self-neglect. And you were never meant to neglect yourself just to keep someone else. You were never meant to lose your voice, your peace, your sense of self, just to hold on to a love that was never stable to begin with. You deserve more than that. You deserve a love that meets you fully. A love that doesn't make you question where you stand. A love that doesn't require you to overanalyze every word, every pause, every silence. A love that feels certain. And that kind of love, it starts with you. It starts the moment you decide that your peace is more important than your attachment. The moment you realize that being alone is better than being in something that makes you feel alone anyway. The moment you understand that your worth is not defined by how someone treats you, but by how you choose to treat yourself, because the way you love yourself sets the standard for how others will love you. If you accept confusion, you'll keep receiving it. If you tolerate inconsistency, it will become your normal. But if you choose clarity, if you choose peace, if you choose self-respect, everything changes. Your standards rise, your expectations become healthier, your heart becomes stronger, not colder, just wiser. And suddenly, the things you once tolerated become the very things you walk away from, not because you don't care anymore, because you finally care about yourself more. And that's not selfish. That's necessary, because at the end of the day, relationship you have with yourself is the one you'll carry forever, and it should be built on respect, on honesty, on love that doesn't confuse you. So if you're standing at that place right now, that quiet moment where your heart feels tired, where your mind is full of questions, where something inside you is whispering, this isn't right, listen to it. Don't ignore it like you've done before. Don't silence it just to keep the peace with someone else, because your inner voice, it knows. It knows when something isn't aligned. It knows when you're settling. It knows when you deserve more, and you do deserve more clarity, more consistency, more love that feels real, and steady, and true. But to receive that, you have to be willing to let go of what isn't. You have to be willing to walk away from confusion, and step into something that feels like peace. Even if that peace starts with being alone, even if that peace feels unfamiliar at first, because eventually, that peace becomes your strength, and from that strength, you begin to attract a different kind of love, not the kind that confuses you, the kind that finally understands you, not the kind that makes you question your worth, the kind that reflects it back to you in the most beautiful, undeniable way. And in that kind of love, you won't feel lost anymore. You won't feel like you're guessing. You won't feel like you have to fight for a place in someone's life, because you'll already have it clearly, fully, and without a doubt.